Welcome to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, hosted by Andrew Duncan, the official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning. As Tampa Bay's top-selling real estate team with over $3 billion in sales and thousands of homes closed. Sell your home with ease, guaranteed in 14 days or they'll buy it. Visit theduncanduo.com. Here's your host, Andrew Duncan.
Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay, with you for another week here to talk about the Tampa Bay real estate market like I am every Sunday here on WFLA News. Got a lot of stuff to get to you today. A lot of interesting news coming out about real estate, and it can be confusing sometimes, so I'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to, promote something that we're working on our team. Through the years, 20 plus years of running this business, we have established relationships with vendors and, partners and people that we send business to. And we're looking to revamp and improve some of that. So if you are a business owner, entrepreneur in any of these industries, we're interested in hearing from you and talking to you about the programs that we have to deliver value to our clients. We're obviously looking for great companies that can serve our customers. We've had a couple of these companies, one of which relocated, one of which went through new ownership, and then just wanting to build it out and be able to provide the great services to our clients like we've done for the last 20 years. That's one of the things that we focus on, being a one-stop shop, offering mortgage, title, real estate, renovation recommendations and the different types of services so that our customers can come to us directly. And we're working with a partner that's built an app for us that allow our clients to get some nice discounts, as well as be able to coordinate and pay for, work on their home. It's one of the things that we get requested most often when somebody goes to put their house on the market. They're like, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. And they expect us to provide them with great companies like we always have. And we're looking to grow that and look for some new partners in a few different areas that want to grow and have great reputations. We've had great relationships with, our present roofer, our movers, our title company, our mortgage people, and our customers rave about them. So we are looking for some more partners. We are looking for, plumbing, electrical, painting, flooring, drywall, landscaping. We're looking for a garage door company, appliance repair, handyman, home cleaning, pool companies, fence companies, and restoration, as well as home builders. So if any of those fit for you and you want to get business from my real estate team, again, we've been so happy with so many of our partners for years, but we're looking to grow it, and we're looking to provide our clients more opportunities to compete for their business so that we can build relationships. So we're obviously looking for great companies that have great reputations, that will do a good job making us look good to our clients. Again, just a quick list of the people. And I'll go ahead and give you Josh's information. My operations manager is going to be running our approved partner program. You can reach him at 813-359-8990. Josh at theduncanduo.com. Again, that's Josh at theduncanduo.com or 813-359-8990. Basically, if you're in home services, any type of construction, maintenance, repair, cleaning, handyman, pretty much everything in that space from, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, painting, flooring, drywall, carpentry, landscaping, garage doors, pest control, locksmith, all of those things are things that we're looking for, as well as some others, but I won't read you through the whole list. But there's certainly a lot of those opportunities that we have for people, potentially also some others as well. But again, 813-359-8990 or Josh at theduncanduo.com. If you want to get business from my real estate team, we're looking for some new partners. So hopefully that's you. And hopefully if you know someone that's a business owner, let them know that we're seeking people. If you forgot the phone number or the email, you can also go to any of our social channels at The Duncan Duo. Just send us a DM and Josh will reach out and have a conversation with you. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, make sure to follow us on all of those socials on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I talked last week about the market statistics And it was interesting because there's a lot of contradiction in the, in the statistics for our real estate market. And the reason why there are so many contradictions, and when I say a contradiction, I mean something like, a segment of the marketplace not operating like the rest of the marketplace, or our marketplace, our real estate market not performing at the same level as, stats that you're seeing national, either that's better or worse than. And so I want to explain what's happened in our market that's caused this kind of segmentation more so than any other time in my entire real estate career. And the very first thing happened a few years ago. We had a condo building collapse in Miami. And that began almost a wave of new regulations, insurance requirements, and changes in condo buildings, that a condo market that was already kind of on fragile ground, and caused HOA fees to rise and buildings to become less valued, and people to be more skeptical of buying condos because of the possibilities of some of those challenges costing them money. So what started then and has continued through to today, because of, compounding from floods that we had and hurricanes, our condo market is, for the most part, except when you get into the uber luxury side of it, our condo market is very weak. So the condo market is very saturated. It is, for all intents and purposes, the buyer's market for most condos. Those affordable condos that have a hard time affording or weren't built up to standards have had to go through extra construction requirements to bring them up to speed and allow them to continue operating. And those have costs that they've passed on to owners, which is depressed values and depressed demand. And when you get reduced demand and more supply, what happens? The market gets worse. So our condo market the last few years has continued to get worse. And so, the single family market, on the other hand, isn't as bad. So when you see our average sale prices and you see things like, hey, prices are down or prices are up, it can be misleading because they may be down or up depending on the type of product that you have. And right now we have a very significant separation. There's always been a separation. Condos have never performed as well, single family, but performed much closer in prior stages of my real estate career than they do now. Presently, condos are performing, bad. They just are. So you have this situation where the average is being drugged down by condos, and then and so people look at that and they say, okay, well, the market's not great. You're seeing depreciation, and then they think everything's depreciating. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So that's a segment of our marketplace that's causing a disparity in the statistics. It's confusing people. The second disparity that I would say that's being caused in our market that is skewing the data is the luxury market. Let's say above $1 million, or even in some parts of Tampa Bay, $1 million is average, maybe above $2 million. And we're seeing more activity in the high end, and, more people moving here from other states that don't have, have worse tax setups for entrepreneurs and wealthy people. We're seeing, we had a couple of years of no hurricanes, so that's not on people's mind as much anymore for those beautiful waterfront high-end homes. And so that's pulling averages up. So while the condo market is pulling it in the other direction, the luxury market is offsetting it. So we have this situation where, a lot of the condos, and specifically the lower priced ones, are depreciating. We have the luxury market where properties are appreciating, where we're seeing homes selling for more money. We're seeing, I think, in fact, a few months ago, there was an article that said that that Tampa Bay was number one in the country for increase in luxury prices. And I continue to see it across my feed. And when I look at the statistics, how many luxury properties are coming on the market and what is happening with the luxury market. So we're continuing to see that. You're seeing these tax policies in California and these policies in New York move people to Florida. Now, Miami is probably the instant hot spot for a lot of that, but there are plenty of people who are going down to Miami and saying, let me look at Tampa, and deciding to go to Tampa because maybe it's more affordable, or maybe it's less congested, maybe it's more family friendly than Miami. So we're getting that extra, push from that audience. So the luxury market is, pulling things in the opposite direction. And then you have the, kind of the core, the middle. And the core in the middle is probably more unchanged than anything else the last several years in terms of price. So, I have, clients and friends and family that bought new construction anywhere from 22 to 24 that now decide, hey, I want to sell. And they didn't lose value, but they didn't gain value either. Or maybe they lost a little bit or gained a little bit, but not enough to make selling it get them out of their mortgage. So a lot of the condo owners aren't in the financial distress because a lot of those are second or vacation or retirees that have substantial finances. Whereas the intro new construction home crowd, we're starting to see foreclosures happen and short sales happen because those people bought. The builders are still building in those communities, and they're now having to move or not able to afford it or losing a job or whatever it is, and they're unable to sell without either writing a check or doing a short sale. So that's why our market right now is in such a weird place. It's hard for people to understand because it really depends on the segmentation of it. So if you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, and look, when I say this, we cover a really broad geographic area. Does this mean that what I talked about is exactly going on in your community? Maybe you're in a condo building that's doing incredibly well. Or maybe you're in a new construction community, the builder's done building and homes are appreciating and you can sell. So these are generalities that unfortunately don't apply to every single asset in the market. No different than, a day where we say, hey, the stock market's way up, but technically 10% of the stocks were down that day. But the overall market was up. It's the same thing in real estate. It's just really segmented now more than it's ever been. But if you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, just go to duncanduo.com. You can fill out a quick, very easy report to see your home value. You can see what's going on around yours. You can see, are these trends that I've talked about happening in your neighborhood? Again, that's duncanduo.com. You get your free home value report. You can request an instant cash offer. You can set an appointment with our team. You can also chat and text with our AI agent to help you understand your value, help you improve your value, and so much more. Again, that is on duncanduo.com. So again, basically just three different segments in the market right now. We've got condos and multifamily. We've got single family homes at the core. Then you've got, the luxury market. And, within that single family home core, a lot of the people are disadvantaged right now, because they're selling maybe a new construction home that the builder's still building in there and you can't compete with the incentives. And your value hasn't risen, but it hasn't dropped, but the selling fees make it impossible for you to sell and get out. So that is exactly what's going on. We've been hoping for interest rate relief. It's hard to say if it ever comes. A lot of people predict that it will not until potentially next year or maybe even the year following. So we're in the market we're going to be in. If you've been waiting on interest rates to drop, you might wait till it's too late. It may not show up. And so nonetheless, that's where we are. We're going to be back after a quick break, continuing our conversation about the Tampa Bay real estate market.
Back to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, the official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Top team in Tampa Bay, over $3 billion sold and counting. Now your host, Andrew Duncan.
So we're back here talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. In the first segment, I talked about the kind of a market overview and also a reminder that we are looking for some more approved vendors to recommend to our clients. If you're in the home services field, if you are a business owner, a salesperson, or involved in that, or know someone that is, and you would want the opportunity to audition, to try out, to work with our clients and earn our business, we're looking for pretty much everything in the home services space. So that is, AC, plumbing, handyman, electrical, landscaping, garage door, pretty much everything to do with home services. We are looking for some new partners or some additions to our current partners. In some instances, we have partners that only work certain parts of town or have done a really good job, but they can't cover as much or they can't get to as much business, or when we have a need and they can't get to it as quickly enough and we need something resolved, we're looking to build that out some more. So if that is you or someone you know, again, that is, you can message Josh on my team, josh@theduncanduo.com. You can also go to any of our socials at The Duncan Duo, or one other thing that you can do is call or text us at 813-359-8990. I also talked about the segments of our market and why it's so disjointed and why your condo may not perform the same as your single family or your luxury property as it relates to real estate in Tampa Bay right now. I want to talk about rental properties next. Was doing some analysis for some clients recently. You know, we have a lot of clients that look to buy or sell rental property. We have some agents that specialize in it. So if that's something you're ever looking for, if you own a lot of rentals and you're looking to exit them, even if they're commercial, I have a commercial specialist on my team that is incredible. We would love the opportunity to audition for that, 813-359-8990 or theduncanduo.com. The rental market, though, has been interesting. There's a 60% 3-year reduction in the number of rental properties within Tampa, which I found kind of interesting. And a lot of that was in that 3-year period, you have the hurricanes. Okay. So that was part of it. You've had this change in insurance, and then you've had it also get hard to be affordable. So, interest rates having risen and not dropped has caused some of the landlords to exit their properties, put them on the market for sale, those types of things. So, but this year it's up 19%. So the years prior to this year, rental properties were down. So it's starting to make sense. Rent, has started to catch up to make it make sense for people. I think the volatility in the stock market has also caused some of that. People, I think, seeing or having some concerns about what's going on in the stock market. Then they've ran to safe places like real estate where they can park money. So if you're a landlord, I've got some tips for you today. First and foremost, vacancy is the enemy. One of the recommendations that I make to all landlords, and there was a point in time where I had 30 plus properties free and clear that were managed and owned, and I don't own them anymore. But I was a very experienced landlord, and vacancy is the enemy. So going too high on your rent ends up causing you to wait a month or two, and you just zapped your profitability. It's better to get someone into the property, be aggressive with the rent, get it occupied, and then have the ability potentially to improve its value, increase the lease if needed, to try and make it more profitable. But vacancy really is the enemy, and too many people shoot high on the rent, sit on the market for months, and then finally capitulate and take the lower number that if they'd have went to, they wouldn't have eaten 3 months of their mortgage. The second thing I would tell you is, in terms of what you put in your lease, and of course, work with an attorney, make sure you're working with a valid legal instrument, but put some provisions in the lease or some protections in the lease around condition. Things like the tenant is responsible for repairs up to a certain standpoint. One thing that I see a lot of really good landlords do is they will stock up the air filters and then require the air filter to be replaced and photographic proof sent as maybe even some sort of a credit or reduction in rent. So let's just say, for example, your rent is $950. Well, we're going to reduce your rent to $940. You just have to send us a picture every third month that you've swapped out the AC filter. An exceptional way to save you money, because those AC failures cost you a lot of money. Another great thing that I've seen landlords do in terms of protecting vacancy is be conscientious about the increases. The greater the increase, the more likely someone is to bounce. Offer them some sort of incentive to stay. Say, hey, look, if you sign a 2-year lease or this lease or that lease, we'll give you an incentive. Prepaying the lease, another one that I love. That was my calling card. I absolutely loved when someone would want to prepay the lease. They'd say, hey, how much money could I save if I pay you a whole year in advance? And they, maybe they save 10% and they have money and they can do that. And they pay it in advance, and that gives me capital to go out and get a greater return than 10%, and also de-risks the property for me. Last but not least, I've seen some landlords be successful with this recently. The property makes money based on what your payment and outgoing cost is and your incoming revenue. Look for ways to increase revenue. Maybe that is, if it's an apartment building, you could add a vending machine. You could make some improvements. You could, add preferred parking for a certain price. If it's a single family home, making improvements to the property obviously can be helpful. But that's how you can increase revenue. Well, the other way to make it more profitable is to decrease expense. Shop your insurance. Don't hesitate to shop your insurance. Look for some other, opportunities to save on insurance. Great carriers. There are brokers out there. There are tons of people that we recommend, but certainly shop the insurance. Last but not least, an unknown thing is challenge your taxes. I can't tell you how often people are getting gouged on their property taxes. That are in our local counties. You can challenge your taxes. You can hire someone to determine that maybe you're overpaying on taxes. Any of those things get adjusted, and your property becomes more valuable on a cash flow and cap rate perspective. So hopefully that's helpful for our landlords out there. And if you are a landlord, maybe you're looking to sell some of your assets, or you're looking to buy more rentals. Again, we would love the opportunity to audition for that, 813-359-8990 or theduncanduo.com. And I'll be back continuing this conversation after a quick break here on The Duncan Duo Show.
And we're back with the Duncan Duo Radio Show, Tampa Bay's #1 real estate team. Over $3 billion in sales, thousands of happy clients, and official partners of the Lightning. Now your host, Andrew Duncan.
Talking Tampa real estate every Sunday like I have for almost 20 years. If you are thinking about selling your home, one of the most common questions we get from home sellers centers around, should I renovate this? Should I improve the property? Should I upgrade, or should I make these repairs? It's one of the most complex questions because it really does need to be handled on a case-by-case basis. Every single neighborhood is different. Some neighborhoods, the best homes that are renovated sell for more. Some neighborhoods, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So there's no uniform way to answer that question effectively and help you with your property. Sometimes they need the renovation, sometimes they don't. But what I do want to talk about are, again, some scenarios where making the renovation may not make sense, okay? And so when you're putting your house on the market, a lot of customers of ours that live in it every day, they get used to the little things that maybe are wrong and look past them. And, what really matters when you're selling a home is you're selling a lifestyle. And for some consumers that are investors, they don't really care about the lifestyle. They're looking at it financially. So they can accept making some repairs to it if the house is in disrepair, because that's their plan, is to fix it up and maybe rent it or resell it. To the consumer that's going to live in it, the majority of those want to buy a home and move into it and enjoy it. There's a small segment of the population that I think are the crazy people that want to buy it and renovate it while they live in it. And that usually doesn't go as smoothly as they expect it to. It doesn't happen like it happens on HGTV. But regardless, the majority of buyers want to buy a home and move into it and enjoy it. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean you have to upgrade your home to where it doesn't make financial sense. So I'm going to give you some examples today of things I wouldn't upgrade in most homes, so that you can look at it from a perspective of, how do I navigate the process of getting my home ready for sale? The very first thing I would say is look at the cost benefit analysis. If you think you've got an old kitchen and it's going to cost, $80,000, but only add $50,000 to the value of your house, you probably shouldn't do it, right? So where things can make sense, okay? So the upgrading of the home or adding things to the home typically cost more than they add because they just do. It's just the natural scenario. People would rather do it their own way. So if you are thinking about making massive improvements, unless you have a lot of equity or you bought the home really cheap to flip, the likelihood of you making those massive renovations and getting your money back is slim. Where you can make changes to improve your value are going to be things, number one, the 4-point stuff. So roof, plumbing, electrical foundation, HVAC, those things need to be taken care of. Because if they're not taken care of, you may not even get to the finish line of the sale. And they're going to cost you more because they're going to have to be done for the buyer to either get insurance or a loan or qualify or to get through inspections. And it almost always costs you more than what it would if you just had it taken care of, because they're going to want to pick their person, or they're going to want to use that leverage they have over you to get a better deal. So whenever you have items that are one of those that you're aware of, your roof shot, your AC's bad, you've got some electrical issues, those are things that you should almost always take care of, because when they're found in the inspection, they end up costing more post-inspection to repair prior to closing. You have less control over it, you have less time, and you have this other person that you have to impress with the repair. Actually, two people, the buyer as well as their home inspector. So if you just take care of those things ahead of time, those are the things that cause deals to get killed. Okay, so when you're talking about renovations, I would talk about more maintenance items, things that are a requirement to get the property closed. If it's not one of those things, the likelihood is it may not make sense for you. The second part of the renovation thing that I would tell people that they need to take care of are items that are glaringly bad. Okay, so here's what I mean by glaringly bad. There's a drywall stain from a prior roof leak. The roof's been fixed, but you never fixed the drywall. Or there are scratches in the wall. Or there's bad landscaping when the mulch has been washed away. Or there's a broken window with tape on it. Shingles missing. Even though the roof is good, a couple of the shingles are missing. If it's visibly able to be seen, you should strongly recommend taking care of it. And here's why I say that. You're selling someone a lifestyle. You're not selling them a list of problems. People want Amazon Prime. They want to push a button and make magic happen. They don't want to walk into a home and have a bunch of stuff to do. Because the reality is when they buy a home, they're going to have a bunch of stuff to do anyway that they're going to happen through the years. And they'd much rather not have this huge laundry list of honey-do items at the beginning. So if you're selling a home and it needs some things, that can be okay. You, however, don't want the small little items that are obviously needing repair to not get taken care of. Those things can cause the buyer to not emotionally attach. It can also cause them to think there's something else wrong with the home. Things as simple as changing the AC filter, cleaning off the vents, all of that. All of those are simple, cost-effective things that will make an ROI positive situation. When you get into the big stuff, a lot of times that doesn't make sense. But the smaller things that can be visibly seen help the buyer attach. They don't see a laundry list of items. They see a few things that they've noticed that they had to look for. But everything they don't have to look for that's wrong with your house, and when I mean wrong, I don't mean not upgraded. I mean like a defect, like a glaring defect, a broken window, dirty AC filter, a fridge that doesn't work, or scratched up walls. Those are things that are commonly seen and visible. And when consumers see those, that could be fixed really simply. They think this owner is lazy and this owner has other items that they're not taking care of. They're going to end up causing me a problem, and it causes buyers to reject the property. So those simple things can go a long way towards convincing the buyer that they're buying a good, solid property, even if it needs some things upgraded, but are all working. Because there's a difference between items that are functioning as they should and then items that are old and dated. You might have a kitchen that has old cabinets and old countertops, but everything's functioning as it should, okay? That can be okay. Most of the time, you're not going to make money on those massive upgrades doing them right before you sell the house. Now, you might do them a few years ahead of time because then you get your own personal enjoyment out of it. But right before, going on the market, those might be things you don't do. Landscaping is also one of the cheapest, most effective things. Curb appeal. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You have the opportunity with the front landscape curb appeal of the house to impress the buyer, to have them feeling a certain way before they even walk in. If you're lazy on the landscaping, and I don't mean going crazy, okay? I'm not talking spending thousands of dollars. I'm talking some fresh mulch. The grass is nicely cut and cleaned. It's fertilized. It looks green. There's no ugly patches. You've pressure washed some driveway or the front of the house, maybe even touched up some paint. If the front landscape of the house looks fresh, you have a really good chance of impressing that buyer. The last thing that I'll tell you in terms of preparing the home for sale, in not really the last thing, but kind of more of a topic that a lot of sellers make mistakes on. Number one is the cleanliness of the house. You have to envision that the most experienced and educated analysts in the real estate space operate in the largest public companies. And in the real estate world, those largest public companies are the home builders. The home builders have decades of experience selling homes to consumers with model homes. The consumer's expectation is a model home. Now, I know that you've lived in your home and you've got your stuff there and you've got your kids and maybe your pets. So you can't completely turn it into a model home. But your goal when you go on the market should be getting it as close to that as you possibly can to get the most amount of money and to give your house the best chance at selling. So things like picking up after your kids and animals, vacuuming, having the house immaculate and clean. Hire a house cleaner if you're too busy. The house should be clean. The house should smell nice. It should feel comfortable. You shouldn't have the AC at 80 and want the agent to turn it down because it's not going to get cold enough by the time the customer gets there. Go to a model home and see what happens and see what your experience is. And then ask yourself, how close to that can I get? I know you can't do all of it. I know you can't make everything like that, but you can get close. The closer you get to the model home, there's two things that happen from that. One, the customer falls in love with that lifestyle, that experience. They feel the home. They can experience all the goodness of the home instead of being distracted by the uncomfortability of it being dirty or dog hair or dog smell or kids' toys everywhere or tripping over a toy. I get that it's hard, but that's what you're competing with. I can't tell you how many customers end up buying a new construction home in a neighborhood that they said was never their desire because the experience in that model home crushed the experience of the resale homes that they sold. So if you're a seller, do what you can to get your home as close to a model home as you can. The second reason why you want that experience to be better, and this goes to really any kind of sales, any kind of sale that's happening where you're in the environment of the product you're going to purchase. This can be a car, okay? Like if you go to a car dealership, the longer they keep you there, the more likely you are to buy the car. Same with the house. The longer they're in that house, the more likely they are to fall in love with it and buy it. The more things that make them want to leave the house, the less likely they are to buy it. You want to create an experience where that buyer can feel like it could be their home. You want that buyer to stay in that house longer. If it's dirty, if there's stuff everywhere, if the lights are out, if it's warm, when it's hot outside, all of those are reasons why people won't stay in the house that long and won't end up falling in love with it. It's just so obvious that you should do everything you can to try and get as close to the model home as you can for your resale property. And the last thing I'll tell you is that means neutralizing, deodoring, make it smell nice, and then taking down personal items that make the home feel like yours. You want the home to feel like theirs. So the more of your family photos that you have up, the more of your kids, the more of your history, it feels like your home, and they have a hard time emotionally attaching to it as your home instead of their home. So hopefully these tips make sense. These are things that I think sellers need to do to prepare their home for sale, whether it's renovations, whether it's taking care of 4-point items, decluttering, depersonalizing, and then getting as close to a model home as you possibly can, a new construction model home, with the presentation when customers come to the property. That is going to give you the greatest chance at selling in a challenging market. Hopefully that's helpful. And if you need some professional guidance on that, we're here for the job, DuncanDuo.com. Again, that's DuncanDuo.com. And we're going to be back wrapping up our last segment after a quick break here on WFLA News.
Back to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, hosted by Andrew Duncan, official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning and the team that guarantees your home sells with ease. Visit theduncanduo.com right now. Here's Andrew Duncan.
Clocking in for my 22nd year in real estate. This is it's been an interesting ride where I've had the fortunate perspective of going through the challenges of a variety of different real estate markets. And, I spent several years, the last years in our business, where we didn't have a lot of questions about foreclosures. We didn't have a lot of buyers reaching out and saying, hey, I'm interested in buying a foreclosure, because there weren't many of them. But the last year or two, they've started to creep up a little bit, and certainly nothing like the Great Recession, where I felt like the majority of homes our customers were buying from banks, and a lot of the listings were foreclosures and short sales. It has increased a little bit to the point where we're starting to get some customers say, hey, guys, I'm interested in buying a home, but I want a foreclosure because I want a great deal. And I want to dispel that myth a little bit, because the reality is that foreclosures can be a great deal for the right consumer, but they're often a horrific deal for the wrong consumer. So we know the foreclosure homes sell for anywhere between 10 and 30% below their value. Banks will often discount them because of either their condition, their problems, or because they simply just don't want to own the asset and they want to move it quickly. That being said, cost-conscious buyers think, hey, foreclosure, I can get a discount. That's for me. And the reason why it's discounted, especially if you're not handy, is because it needs things. And oftentimes it needs more than you think it does. And that's why they sell for discounts. What you don't know is that the homeowner that got evicted or foreclosed on sabotaged the property. They poured concrete down something. They stole the AC units. They sabotaged the pool. The pool hasn't been maintained in forever. So you have to be conscientious to factor in. You might think, hey, I'm getting this $300,000 house for $250,000. It's a great deal, okay? Until you spend $50,000 getting it up to speed to the house next door. The majority of buyers are unprepared for what it's going to take to restore a foreclosure to a regularly maintained home like others in the neighborhood, because they underestimate all the things that are going to be wrong with it, or that will go wrong with it quicker than other properties because of how in disrepair or how much maintenance hasn't been done, or mold that can't get found in the inspection because it's creeping somewhere the inspector doesn't look. It is a problem. It's a problem, and we deal with it all the time, where customers want one, they buy one, and then they figure out that it is not what they wanted to do. When you buy a home that you're going to renovate yourself before you move in it, you're buying another job. Imagine living in your part-time job, because that's what it becomes. And there are a lot of people that regret it. So be cautious to not overestimate the gain that you're getting when you buy a foreclosure. You may think you're getting a home that's underpriced, but what you're oftentimes getting is a home that needs work that you're not capable of doing, or that you underestimate how much it's going to cost. And then you end up losing money because you bought this thing that sounded sexy because you were saving a bunch of money and you wanted to buy a foreclosure to tell everybody you got such a great deal buying a foreclosure, and then all the money you spent on it, you ended up being worse off than if you'd just bought the home, moved into it, and enjoyed it for 6 months instead of renovating it for 6. So be very cautious about a foreclosure. Foreclosures are perfect for investors, for flippers, for people that are turning them into rental properties that can renovate them without having to live in them, or that have capital, that are wealthy. Because a lot of the renovations and foreclosures become hard, to lump into financing, or you pay a higher rate for those. There are loan products for it, but again, far too often I see buyers underestimate what it's going to take to return a foreclosure to its glory days and end up regretting it. So be cautious when you're looking at foreclosures. Same thing goes for short sales. Look, short sales have a lot of the same issues. You're going to have AC problems. You're going to have you're going to have leaks. You're going to have things that didn't get detected if someone wasn't living in it for a while. You're going to have some air quality issues. You're going to have potential plumbing issues. You're going to have rodents. And you're generally going to have a house that wasn't maintained for a really long time. Typically, a foreclosure takes several years to finally happen. And you have to envision that if someone wasn't paying their mortgage, they're also not paying to maintain certain of the items that can go wrong in a house. So while foreclosure, again, can sound great, and it can be great for a lot of consumers, the majority of them, it's not the right path for, and I would caution against it for all of those reasons. The juice oftentimes isn't worth the squeeze. Customers will get those inspection reports back and then want to back out, or, a year later, the renovation was harder than they thought, or they ran into permitting issues, or they found other things wrong. Foreclosure properties are that cheap for a reason. Okay. You get what you pay for, and you're basically paying for a second job, a part-time job while you renovate the house. And if you're not an expert at it and you don't have experience in the trades or the right professionals to help you with it, you can get absolutely gouged trying to get that home back in a market where prices are already dropping. That can be crucial. If a neighborhood has a foreclosure, it's likely that values in that neighborhood may be dropping. So in addition to you having to spend money out of pocket, you're also fighting against the depreciation at the same time you're throwing money, good money at bad in many scenarios. So again, foreclosures, right for flippers, right for investors, right for the experienced people, right for people with the trades. If they do the math and they figure out exactly, truly, really what's wrong, not always the right call for the consumer that wants to buy, move into it. Definitely not the right call for a first-time home buyer. So hopefully this has been helpful. We appreciate you tuning in when we aren't on air. Again, at The Duncan Duo on all of our socials. And we'll be back next week. Have an awesome rest of your Sunday, Tampa Bay.